Just keep your head down and carry on. You fight like hell, turn the other cheek. It's what separates the strong from the weak. And that's just the way that the line gets drawn. You gotta keep on living till the fight is gone.
And then every player on the ice has a 10-minute misconduct.
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of 10-Minute Misconduct. We are an unofficial FPHL podcast. We got a full house tonight. We've got our regular host. We got Taylor. Thank you for coming back to see us, buddy. We got Sam, Aaron, and of course the legendary Travis Ridgen. Thank you so much, Trav, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast again, 2 times, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I know, let's just jump right in because I know we've got a few things that we want to discuss. So with your time in the Fed, with specifically this past season, can we kind of start from the beginning of the season with Watertown and kind of go from there? What happened in Watertown?
Happened in Watertown. Wow, we're 30 seconds off the ground. You already want to get into stuff. That's a good question. I ask myself that sometimes as well, what happened in Watertown, because sometimes a lot of things just don't make sense. I just think, to put it nicely, it just wasn't a fit, and I don't think everything lined up on their part and my part, if I'm being fully honest. I had certain expectations coming into the season based on promises of the summer and conversations with my liaison, and basically none of them were fulfilled at all. The deal happened to Port Huron. I'm a legend. I spent 45 minutes and counting there. They actually made an Instagram post about me, which was more than Watertown did. And then I ended up in Mississippi in the Gulf Coast in Biloxi. And then I got sent home, reporting back to my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I was very fortunate enough to get a network deal for my podcast, and I'm full-time in Vancouver. So things worked out and landing on my feet. The short close notes version of what happened this season.
Yeah. Well, first off, congrats on your network deal. I know that you've got a ton of fans and followers, and hopefully we'll have some more from the Fed that maybe with, the expansion this year, hopefully there'll be some new people trickling over to come hang out with you. So, but yeah, we'll get into that. So, Taylor, take us off.
You've been quite a few places as far as the Fed. Where's the best living conditions and where's the shittiest living conditions you've been? And
the best
dive
living
in on that, please.
The best living conditions by far, and it's not even close, was actually the first setup I had in Motor City. I came a little bit early last season to Detroit, and they didn't have the team housing ready for me yet. So our goalie coach, Bill Ruggiero, shout out to him. He's an absolute beauty. Played a couple years pro in Finland as well. Florida Panthers emergency backup. He's kind of been around the block and do it all. Good friend still to this. Actually, I think Bill messaged me today. I still have to text him back. So Bill, if you're watching, I'll get back to you later. My apologies. But his living situation he gave me, because the team's housing wasn't ready. So he said, why don't you come live in my guest house, which is just on the lake, I believe, Lake Huron, it might have been. Maybe I'm incorrect on that. But he allowed me and my roommate, who I will not name, to live there by ourselves. And it was this beautiful guest house in the water. We had everything we needed to do, everything we needed possibly. And they gave us, he gave us a 1998 green Ford F-150. Beauty of a truck. She hummed like it was awesome to have that truck. Go to practice, go to the Apple store, go get groceries, whatever you needed at the Kroger grocery store. And then after, I would say, about 2 weeks, my roommate, he was a bit of a gambling addict, and it'd be like 3, 4 in the morning. I've told the story on my podcast a couple times, but if you haven't heard it, it'd be 3, 4 in the morning. You hear like banging upstairs, you'd hear noise and music, and I walk out of my room, and there he'd be upstairs. The place would be like engulfed in smoke. The place was hot box. I got like a disco ball, lights, music, and everything. And I'd say, so-and-so, please go to bed. We have practice at 11 in the morning. He's like, I just hit the parlay, dude. I'm up $200. So we lasted about 2 weeks together. And he, I think, got tired of me telling him to go to bed, because I had to go to bed probably a little earlier, like 10:30, 11-ish, we'll just say. And he'd like to not go to bed at all. So he ended up moving to the team housing with about 5 other guys. And I was by myself for a month. So I had Bill's guest house all to myself. I had peace and quiet, absolute productivity. I got the incredible ocean view, or not ocean view, excuse me, the lake view. So sunrises were fantastic. I got to wake up, make my coffee first in the morning, and just think about what I wanted to accomplish in the day, go to practice, come back, make a meal, have a nap. Like, life was fantastic. That was by far the best living situation I had ever in my entire experience in the Fed. The rest, kind of all fall into the same category. I remember when they moved me to the team housing in Motor City, I was sleeping on a blow up mattress, and that lasted, I think, a day because there's a hole in it, and I'd go to sleep, and then the thing would end up flat on the floor, which I've documented in my Life in the Fed series, which you can see how flat the mattress was. I ended up moving to the couch, and then I was by myself for a day, and they put one of the other players in the other couch. So him and I shared the living room and both couches for a bit. And then he left. So then I had the living room to myself for a couple of days, and then one of the guys got called up. So then I got to share a bedroom with somebody. And then somebody got sent down. They said, Trav, you got to go back to the couch. So it was like musical chairs, living situation in this house until I left for my hip surgery in would have been mid-December, I want to say. And then in Watertown, my living situation, this may sound a little bit different, shall we say, or fascinating, as my therapist would say. I was promised my own room when I got traded there. And at the time, that was sexy, right? Like to have my own room, to have my own privacy, to have my own, like I'm a very introverted person. Like I have a social battery, but it only lasts so long. And it gets to a certain point where I just need to have some alone time and just kind of be isolated from everybody else. So having my own privacy was an incredible concept. And I remember when I got to Watertown, I did not get my own room. I had to share a room the entire time. So my only alone time really was going for walks to Starbucks or going to the gym by myself because nobody really wanted to go to do the gym after hours or for extracurriculars. So I ended up sharing with, I think, two guys, might have been three guys sharing the same room. We just had like mattresses beside each other. And my roommates, I will say, they were fantastic. They were very good, and we were both very understanding of like, hey, I want some alone time, you want some alone time. So I won't name them, but they were fantastic. They know who they are. And then in Mississippi, actually, that's a lie. I got 2 nights in the Watertown Ramada Hotel. That was great by myself. Although when I got traded, my boss did ask if I could share a room with the guy that they just traded for. And that guy also had his girlfriend with him. So he wanted me, this guy, and his girlfriend to share one hotel room, which we both collectively agreed, no, we're not doing that. Out of respect for her and out of respect for them, and also respect for myself, we're not going to do that. So I ended up going down to Mississippi, and I ended up living in the living room with a mattress for probably about 2-3 days, maybe 4 days, give or take. And the guys that live in Mississippi were very nice guys. They did like to stay up a little bit later than, again, I would like. I mean, they would stay up to like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, midnight. Watching Entourage, great show, by the way. Kevin Connolly, I believe, is the star on that show. And it's kind of hard to sleep when you listen to the TV on level 75. So after a couple of days, I said, you know what? I'm going to move my mattress off the living room floor. I'm going to move it into the garage because in the garage, it's quiet, it's dark, and I can just kind of have some peace and quiet, which they kind of gave me some weird looks. And they said, like, why would you want to move into the garage? And I said, well, I get some peace and quiet. I get to go to bed at the time that I like. And I think this works out for everybody. So I slept on a mattress on the garage floor in Biloxi for about a week and a bit. And then I got released by my boss, Mr. Joe Pace Jr., and I went home to Winnipeg.
So nothing but frat housing, essentially.
That's one word to use to describe it, yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron.
So you mentioned moving into Mississippi and the living situation there. And, I was really under the impression that this was going to be rigid and Pace versus the Fed. What happened down there? What went on?
So did I. You know what? Honestly, I will say this. People don't believe this. Joe and I maybe had 3 conversations the entire time I was there, and none of them were business related. They were mostly about like family, his kids, being a dad, and just being a man. Which, if Joe is watching, I really do appreciate the conversations. I thought they were very intimate, and I appreciate the vulnerability he had in those conversations. As far as the rest goes, I wish things would have worked out. I think Joe's hands were tied by somebody else, and unfortunately, when maybe I got to be careful with my wording here. When something is wrong and something is not right, I feel it being very authentic to myself to speak up about it. So, for example, if one of your players beats the shit out of his wife and is allowed to get out of jail free card, I'm going to say something about it because it's not right. And Joe was on the same page about that as well. A lot of guys on the same page. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when people are making certain decisions are financially affected by my speaking out saying you should not be able to beat your wife, unfortunately, something has to give. And I remember when, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit from the Mississippi situation, when I'd mentioned about ex-player beating his wife. I made a clip about it, and I remember that at the time when I posted it, I thought this is going to be like the least controversial thing ever. Like it's pretty straightforward. Either don't beat your wife or do beat your wife. And I think everybody's on the one side of you don't touch women. You have respect for women. A woman can hit you. You just take it. You're a man. We both know men are stronger than women, although most of the world would seem to disagree that because they got so wacky. But men are stronger than women, therefore we don't hit them. We don't take advantage of them. We just soak it and be a man about it. And I remember when I posted the clip, less than a day later, the league wanted to suspend me for 4 to 5 games for that. Said, we're going to suspend you if you don't take the clip down. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I meant what I said. I said what I meant. And if I have to soak a 5-game suspension, at least I was on the side of being right. Right? Like, I would rather sit here saying you should not do this and stick true to what I actually said than take it down and not get suspended. Right? And so I told my boss at the time to let the league know I will not be taking the clip down. If they want to suspend me, so be it. Because I think they quickly realized, okay, so he's not going to take the clip down. It makes us look bad. And if we suspend him, it makes us look even worse, because why was he suspended? The guy's not even playing and he got suspended, right? So I think they changed up their method very quickly. And then I'd say about a couple of days later, maybe a week later, Commish wanted to come down and have a meeting with me about exactly that. And then the day of, he just didn't, want to meet with me, I guess, for whatever reason. So it was very fascinating, shall we say, how that worked. And then, yeah, fast forward to Mississippi. I think at that point in time, Joe's hands were tied by somebody or somebody's else. And it was only a matter of time, as long as I kept speaking about what I wanted, that I was going to be gone. So.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, most of the things that those people, those higher than Joe's, those decisions they like to make, none of us really think they make that much sense, but I guess at least your response does.
Well, and here's the thing too. I remember when Joe released me, I could tell there was conviction in his voice, as well as Yanni They were both together having a conversation with me. And there was conviction in their voice that they were genuinely sorry that this was happening. And I've learned since then that, again, that decision was not made by Joe or Yanni. It was influenced by other people and the powers that be. And unfortunately, when you speak out against things that are wrong, whether it's happening in Watertown or happening in Mississippi or Binghamton or anywhere else, people aren't going to like it. And as you've seen with the Amesbury situation, which I support him fully, is a beauty, they would rather get rid of you than have a sit-down conversation and say, listen, Trav, I know you've been talking about this. Why don't we just curate the message a little bit? Maybe we won't talk about things in this way. Maybe we can, listen, what we did was wrong. We're going to fix this, but please don't make us look bad. Right? Like, that's all it would have taken. Hey, let's have a conversation. And Commissioner wanted to have a conversation with me, but I guess he chose the last minute that he didn't want to. And hey, that's his decision, because I think the league does suffer with without having me and Daniel Amesbury in the league. It's significantly going to suffer. I mean, look at the Motor City attendance. Nobody wants to watch the games. Nobody comes to practices anymore. I remember coaches give me a hard time about that when fans would come to practice just to see me practice, because I never played, or they'd come for warm-ups and then they leave. I remember my girlfriend at the time, she'd watch the live streams. I remember telling my general manager, oh yeah, she comes, she watches the warm-ups and then leaves because she knows I'm not going to play. And he would tell me, make sure she watches the full games. Well, why would she? Why would anybody watch the games if they're coming to watch me play, right? They're going to watch me warm, they're going to leave. It makes sense, right? So unfortunately, I think the league doesn't realize that if you want the perks and benefits of having somebody like myself or diamond hands in the league, you have to also be ready to deal with the negatives as well. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. Unfortunately, it comes with both sides of the equation.
Absolutely.
So you actually have a very, very large social media following, more or less. Would you say that following in a lot of your messages, like when you just said, has it helped you or hurt you more in the league?
I'll say both, to be honest with you. I think authenticity is extremely hard to find in this day and age, especially in the online world. And saying that, hey, like, you shouldn't beat your wife, whether you're going to suspend me or not, is genuinely authentic. Speaking out against some of the things that are happening in Watertown, whether they liked it or not, was extremely authentic. And I've always just been truly authentically myself, whether you like it or not. And I think that it resonates with some people. I think other people, they hate it because I think it reflects a mirror back to them of their inauthenticity. So for example, in the Fed, I never got in trouble for saying things that I said or doing things that I did. It was only for the reaction from what other people were doing. So for example, with so-and-so beating their wife, or things that were happening in Watertown, or things that were happening in Motor City, it was only because I was speaking about what they were doing, not the fact that their actions were inappropriate or immature. It's the fact that I spoke about them. So instead, why don't we look at the actions and say, maybe we should do something different? So for example, if my general manager is complaining we have no loyalty and that nobody wants to play here, nobody wants to stick around here long enough, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe you should pay guys on time. Maybe you should pay guys for jersey sales when they sell certain things. Maybe you should take care of the guys that are going out of their way to do stuff in the community. So for example, again, if one of your players sells a big sponsorship for the team, you should compensate them accordingly, right? When you sell a jersey at the end of the season and guys sell jerseys, you should pay them accordingly. You should take care of your players, right? If you build camaraderie within the team and a morale, you're going to get more out of your staff and your employees. If we were working a full-time job and you paid me for a 15-minute coffee break as opposed to telling, and you provided me with coffee, as opposed to you saying, take your 15, you're not paying, I'm not giving you anything, right? I'm probably going to be more productive and want to work for you, right? You get more from what you put in, right? Your input versus your output. And as the old saying goes, I remember one of the guys in Watertown hated when I used this saying, but you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. But if you're like me, catch more honeys being fly. They hated that when I used that one, or that one individual hated when I used that saying, but it's true.
Probably because it wasn't fly enough, but hey, that's his problem.
It is what it is. And like I mentioned, authenticity is going to repel a lot of people. It's also going to attract a lot of people. And you can't win everybody over, right? Like if you're upsetting people, you're doing something right. And if you're winning people over, you're doing something right. But if you bore people and they don't care, you're clearly doing something wrong. And as the old saying goes in dating, you can do almost anything you want, just don't bore her. The second you bore her, she will leave. It's true.
So I have I guess a two-part question. Don Kernan seems to be a bit of a ghost at times. And since he kind of was going to have a meeting and didn't, is there anything that you'd want to say to him? And then the other part of the question, there's been some rumors around that maybe you were blacklisted from the league, maybe something happened. And I know we kind of touched on like what happened at each of the teams, but is there any truth in you being on social media and the league not wanting to be a part of that?
Oh, of course. They hate it, right? Because, and I think Diamond Hands and AJ Gallant, I talked about it on their show, the Talking Trash podcast, which, by the way, is fantastic. Everybody should listen to it if they haven't.
I agree.
It's incredible. Their studio is fantastic. But the reason guys like that have a platform is so they can talk a lot about stuff like that. I know AJ and Diamond Hands are talking about with him getting suspended for lifetime, in the words of Will Arnett from Blades of Glory, lifetime. It's a long time. But they have the ability to speak about that in their side of the story, or mine as well. And I think that the one thing that Don and everybody else in the league that makes these decisions, including up to the decision to remove me from the league indefinitely, is that all it takes is a simple conversation, right? Like I'm a very reasonable, logical, open-minded person. If we were to sit down and say, listen, Trav, I love what you do here. I love what you do there, but this isn't flying for me. This doesn't work for me. Can we find a way not to compromise, but to cooperate and to collaborate to make this work for everybody so that I can win, the team can win, the league can win, right? Like that makes sense. But if you just get rid of me, now you've lost a lot of money because I'm not around. You've lost a lot of money because Diamond Hands isn't around. You pissed off a lot of the people that watch the league from me or from Diamond Hands. I think that you've instilled a level of distrust with the players as well. So nobody's winning, right? And although you may be on a little bit of a bit of an ego trip to do so, everybody could win if we just sat down and had a conversation. But unfortunately, this is the way that things went. At the end of the day, honestly, I know it's maybe kind of hard to believe, but I have nothing but love in my heart for the guys in the Fed, for the people that make the decisions, because at the end of the day, like I'm happy with my experience. Things worked out for me. I hope things work out for them. And anybody that loves hockey is someone that I have nothing but love for as well, right? The world's better when we all love each other, or at least to some degree.
So I was
Hey,
going
let's
to
go.
ask. I was going to ask. I noticed the other day, and this you may not even know anything about it. The UHL is expanded from 12 teams to 48 teams from coast to coast. Is there any way that you could possibly enter that league, or what's your plans going moving forward?
Yeah. So playing hockey wise, I want to continue playing hockey. I love goaltending. I don't love the business side of the Fed. And if I'm being honest, I think one of the first things I got told on a road trip last year in Motor City by one of the guys, I won't mention his name. He said to me, dude, prepare for a long season because this league will age you like you've never been aged before. You'll feel like 5 years older by the end of it. And I kind of chuckled at the time, but boy, was he right. Because the business side really does take the love out of the game. And I haven't been skating overly crazy amount in the last little bit. My season is over because I've been focusing on my podcast and my network deal the last little bit. But I don't want to play for any team or any management that is going to treat me the way that I was treated in like Watertown or in Mississippi or Motor City. I would like to have a place to live where I can feel comfortable and feel at home and feel welcome. And I also want to play hockey, right? And the business side of okay, you tell me one thing to my face and then you actually do another. So your words and your actions don't line up. Or in some cases where you're literally lying to my face. I'm asking you what is happening. You tell me one thing and I say, no, that's actually not what happened. This is what happened. Oh, no, no, no. You're just not seeing things correctly. I am seeing things correctly. You're just trying to lie to me. So I'm not ever going to play for a team that will do that type of stuff. I mean, I haven't talked about this on my show, so I'll give you guys the exclusive. There was a Fed team that reached out about signing me. I'm going to say 4 weeks ago ish. And we were talking business, we were talking details. And I said, okay, listen, so and so, who I won't mention their name. I want specifics about where am I going to live? Am I going to have my own room? Am I going to have a couch? Am I going to have a shared bedroom? I don't care what it is. I want specifics of what to expect. And if you don't give me specifics, I'm not going to entertain this deal. And it was interesting because the second I asked for that, all the interest dried up and things went really radio silent. And I remember that individual reached out to my agent saying, hey, we're looking for a goalie. Well, why don't you sign Trav? We have Trav. Now's not the time. We don't want Trav at this moment in time. You seemed to want me a month ago before I started asking for specifics. So I'm assuming I would have been living out in a garden or some rooftop shed or a trailer or something. So only God knows what would have happened. But I do want to continue playing hockey, most likely over in Europe next season, where at least from my experiences in Sweden and Europe in general, they take much better care of the players than they do in the Fed. I also think my time in Sweden was a life-changing, eye-opening experience. And I think anybody should go over there to experience it if they get the opportunity to. And I just want to go play some hockey in an exciting new place and a place that I can call home, a place that'll take care of me. And yeah, I don't have to deal with some of the Fed sideshows, shall we say.
So there's a couple fan questions.
Oh boy.
What are you doing? Nothing crazy yet. What are you doing to stay in shape while you're working on your next opportunity with your season kind of, as you say, being over right now?
Yeah, I haven't been skating an excessive amount just because my season is done. And like I mentioned, I'm focusing my network deal with the show to try to get that being as successful as I can. In the gym, plenty of days a week, 3-4 days a week, trying to balance out a stronger upper body with a more balanced lower body. I mean, you spend so long working on your lower body as a goaltender, your entire life doing lower body workouts. So I've been trying to balance out more of the top in the last little bit. I've kind of swapped out skating for Muay Thai kickboxing. That's something I've been finding a lot of passion in. It's actually, I was sparring a guy who's got a fight coming up in about 5 weeks the other day, and he's in fantastic shape, and boy, did he humble me very quickly. So it's good every now and then to get humbled, and that's kind of where my mind is at as far as preparing for the next little chapter in my career. I think also, as I mentioned too, I'm definitely feeling some burnout from hockey. Well, not some. I'm feeling a lot of burnout from hockey from playing in the Fed. There's just something about the business side of the Fed that just dries up your love for hockey like I've never experienced before in my life. I do love goaltending because I still love skating my goalie coach. I love getting on the ice with a good group of guys, but the business side just dries it up so quickly, so fast. And when you're showing to the rink 5 days a week and it's every single day, there's no break. You can't get an escape because you're living with 9 guys in a house. Like I said, it dries it up so quickly. So I'm actually very happy with where my training and my physical status is since leaving the Fed in November.
Absolutely.
What would you say is the biggest cause for not staying on a team for a long period of time in the Fed?
Boy, oh boy. All right, let's get into some hot stuff. Well, I've talked about this before. I do believe I am an elite level goaltender in the Fed if given the opportunity. The problem being is when you sit me on the bench or sit in the stands for 2 months in a row, how do you expect me to get into some rhythm and get some starts? Right. So for example, in Watertown, I get my opportunity. I get 2 goals and 13 shots. I get the yank. The starter goes in, gives a 5 on 13, he stays in the game, right? So you're giving him the opportunity and the rope to go and get some confidence and get some consistency and get some reps in. You're not even giving the opportunity to finish the first period. So I think the only thing missing from my game, realistically speaking, is getting some reps and some confidence. Because even in the game this year I played for Mississippi against Withville, despite what the stats would indicate, I was actually feeling very good and very confident, feeling I was moving well and reading the puck. It's unfortunate that the game went the way that it did, and the opportunities were what they were. But I think I can be an extremely effective, extremely dominant goalie if given the opportunity in the Fed. So as far as you asked about why I don't stick in the Fed as well.
For what was the cause for not staying on the team? Like at that point, would you say it's more aimed at the coach for not giving you the opportunity? Is it the team? Do you think it's like your social media that a lot of teams don't want to deal with? Like,
I think that I'm a significantly better goalie than a decent amount of goalies in the Fed. The problem being is when I speak about the things that I do and I talk about the stuff that I do and I share the things that I do, that's a big no-no because the league no longer has control or power over that. So if I didn't have a YouTube channel or a podcast and I just shut up and I just played, I probably never would have left the Fed, period, at all. I'd probably still be there right now, but you'd have no idea who I am. I wouldn't have a network deal and I wouldn't be, honestly, being as happy as I have been the last little bit. So the things that I share, the things that I post, 100% of the reason why I'm not in the Fed and will probably be the reason why you'll never see me in the Fed again. And also, I wouldn't entertain an opportunity in the Fed unless it was a really outstanding offer, which I don't think the Fed is ever going to make, which is why I say I'm going to be going back to Europe next season, where I don't know. My agent and I are working hard behind the scenes at that while we iron out a couple other things. But yeah, that basically sums up my Fed experience and Fed situation moving forward.
We have a familiar face in the chat that has a question for you. I think you recognize, and our fans as well, Lee Marion. He said the league tried starting a podcast. If they asked you, would you have turned your podcast into a Fed Zeno podcast with their co-hosts?
That's interesting. That's interesting. There's so many variables that you'd have to factor in first for that. I don't think the Fed would want a podcast with me because that would involve a conversation where we say, okay, this is what the league is trying to accomplish. This is what you're trying to accomplish. How do we come together and make everybody have a win-win-win? And I don't think the league has any intention of that. It's just the Fed is going to do what it wants. And if you don't like that or subscribe to that, beat it, which is why I'm in Vancouver and the Fed is doing what it's doing. I definitely would have been open-minded to it. Like I said, all needed to happen was a conversation about this is what we're trying to accomplish. Can we win together? Right? Because if everybody's winning, everybody's happy. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I did see that Motor City was trying to start their own podcast the other day. I did find that kind of cute. But yeah.
Is there any fan questions, Anna?
Yeah, let me look through. We've got some good ones. People are excited to see you on the show. My mom said it's awesome you respect women, so that's really sweet. Let's see.
I will say this. I never would have thought at the start of the season that I would have gotten traded or booted from the league for saying we should respect women and not beat them. But I mean, all sorts of firsts this year, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a twist, to be honest. Let's see. With your network deal, let's see, do you think the network deal will have a negative impact on a new team?
In the Fed, absolutely nothing's ever going to change. I don't think the Fed will be open-minded to having me back anytime soon unless some serious shakeup at the higher up levels happen. As far as teams in Europe will absolutely love it, I think. I think that once things start shuffling around in April or May when the seasons are done and they're looking to sign new players and my agent gets hard to work behind the scenes, I don't think it'll take very long to get a deal at all. And I look very much forward to playing for that team. And I've talked about this in my podcast before. Any team that I play for, I am very happy to play for because they want me. I'm an advocate. I'm probably the number one fan for the team. If a team doesn't want me, I don't care. I don't support the team. I just move on. Right? There's no reason to. If you don't want me, I don't want to be there.
Another question I just wanted to throw in. There is another goalie that kind of touched in the Fed briefly, like at the very beginning of the season. He got cut. I don't know if you're aware of him or not.
I saw his stuff. Even I've had
yeah.
A couple conversations with DMs.
What can you kind of talk about that and like your thoughts on what he said and do they align with what you've seen?
Yeah, I fully believe everything he put in the video about his experience. The sad thing is, Anna, his experience was so vanilla, right? Like the things that he was talking about. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's Tuesday. All right, what's new, bud?
Yeah.
Like that's that experience wrapped up in a nutshell. I mean, between and when he was talking about having a hard time getting his gear back, I thought he wasn't going to get his gear back, so that didn't surprise me. In the Fed, I've learned that when they promise you something, it probably means it's not going to happen. So, for example, they say, we're going to pay for X, Y, and Z. You're not going to see that money. If you're the starter, the backup, you're not going to be the guy. You're probably going to get cut and will be the third guy, at least in my experience. So you almost don't want things to be promised because then there's probably a better chance that it'll happen. But once they start making promises, it's not going to happen. So I think he fell victim to that. And nothing in that video surprised me, to be honest. I've heard of it and I've seen it and I've experienced it myself as well. So welcome to the Fed.
It's the Wild West. There's no rules out here except don't piss off the higher ups.
They have a rule book, but they can change it at any point in time whenever they feel like it. So
It's like that scene in the Grinch where the many scenes in the Grinch where every time something pisses off the mayor, he just like opens the book to a random spot and he's like, oh, this is the rule. This is what I say. And then finally someone like you comes along and says, maybe let's question that a little bit. And then it's like, oh, no, you got to get out of here. You can't stand for it.
As the old saying goes, art imitates life, and sometimes the other way around as well.
If you could give 3 pieces of advice to any of the management teams in the Fed to make the Fed experience better for players, what solid 3 pieces of advice would you give?
Oh boy. I don't think that they'd want to hear it. I think
Well, we do.
I know you guys do. You guys have been fantastic to me. I would say put your ego aside at the door and listen to your players, right? So for example, I'll use this as a great analogy. In a relationship, if your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or wife brings something to your attention, says, hey, Travis, this makes me feel a certain way. I'm upset. I don't like this. They didn't just pull it out of their ass, right? It exists for a reason. Now, there is a varying degree of, okay, maybe you're exaggerating. Okay, maybe you didn't see 100% what's happened. Maybe, Trav's office medication. Maybe he's being a little bit dramatic today, or whatever the case may be. But there's a reason why that's being said. So, for example, when Andrew Rocha, I think was his name, the Renaissance Rocha, the guy that was in Baton Rouge that made the pucked up in the Fed video, that guy?
Yes.
When he's talking about the coach and management said, don't talk to any of our players, don't go on the ice. You're not going to get your gear back until, so and such and such a time. He didn't just probably make that up and just put it on the internet. It happened, right? So I would say listen to your players. When your players bring feedback to you, it's a great opportunity to improve. Constructive criticism is fantastic. Unfortunately, in the Fed, everybody seems to think they know everything, which is why I think the league will fail collectively over time because of it. I mean, like, look at the rosters. There's a reason why guys don't stick around more than 2 years, because I think they just get tired of it. You have a couple lifers, right? There's a couple of guys that just love it and they stick around, good for them. But there's a lot of guys that get turned over and just don't have any interest in coming back after how they were treated. So be open-minded, listen to your players, listen to your fans, and check your ego at the door. But I don't think that'll happen anytime soon, which is unfortunate because there's so much potential, right? Like the Fed has so much potential to be so successful because the fans are so passionate. The fans in Watertown are insane. Like they are so passionate. They love their hockey team. They love the players. They love everything about it. Same thing with the people in Mississippi. Like these people, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, they don't know everything about hockey, but goddamn, they love it, right? NASCAR on ice is what they love, and that's what they get.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right? Like there's so much potential to invest in the community and get them behind the team and make money for the players, for the teams, for like everybody can win. But there's just so many egos involved that I don't see it being successful long term. So it's unfortunate, but it is the way that it is, and I can't change that. So.
Do you have any personal issues with any of the organizations? And if so, what ones and why?
Wow, that's a spice one. I have nothing but love in my heart for anybody in the league or any of the management of the organizations. I think that anybody that has negative feelings towards me is upset for some other underlying issues that don't have anything to do with me. Maybe I reflect certain things back.
Social media.
Yeah, well, like when I talk about being authentic and speaking up about certain things that are happening in Watertown or Mississippi or Binghamton or Motor City, whatever, it's coming from a place of authenticity. And I think that they get mad because they're losing control and they say, well, Travis speaking up about this, it makes us look bad. Well, it's like I mentioned before, like just listen to your players, have an open mind and an open heart and want to make that experience good for them. Because again, I'll use that coffee analogy. If you give the guys a 30-minute paid coffee break, you supply them with coffee and a couple of pastries. God damn it, they're going to be productive, want to go to war with you every single night. But when the guys feel taken advantage of, right? Like when men feel disrespected, I think is when the most heinous of crimes happen in the world. But when a man feels respected and appreciated, he'll do anything. He'll go into a burning building, right? Like he'll go to war and run on the front lines, right? Like men function on respect. And I know for me, in the brief moments of time in the Fed where I did feel respected, I would do anything for my team. I would do anything for my teammates. I would do anything for my management, for my organization. The second I felt genuinely disrespected, lied to, and taken advantage of, you ain't getting nothing out of me anymore, right? I do think to an extent you have to allow your opponent and your enemy to manipulate you to an extent to understand where you want them to go or they want you to go, right? And once you see that, okay, well, I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore, which unfortunately is what happens a lot in the Fed. But again, like I said, I don't have any negative feelings in my heart towards anybody in the Fed. I hope that they can learn from their mistakes. I hope that they're open-minded. I hope they hear the things that I've said and that I've shared, and they take it to the drawing board and talk about it in a constructive way. I sadly don't believe that that will happen. And like I mentioned, I'm much happier doing my podcast on a network deal, living in Vancouver, doing everything that I have been since I left. I think as a man, I've progressed a lot since leaving that Fed environment, and I wouldn't change it. I'm very happy with how things have turned out.
I want to hear about your network deal, but right before I ask that, we have a fun question in the chat from
I'm hoping you catch that.
yeah, gorgeous friend of mine, Sam's wife, actually. She wants to know, let's do a fun question. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh yeah, pineapple and prosciutto is a fantastic pizza combo. I used to be a thick crust kind of guy, but I think thin crust is better because you get a better ratio of dough to topping. There's actually a pizza joint probably about 300 meters up my balcony here in Vancouver. They have a unlimited topping pizza on a 12-inch thin crust pizza. So you get like triple chicken, triple sausage, triple cheese. You get maximum protein and thin crust pizza, so less carbs. So I don't know if that answers the question. I can't see the chat either, by the way, so I don't know who's asking these questions, but that's only the hard-hitting questions here for the 10-minute misconducts podcast.
Yes, absolutely. We got to know pineapple or no pineapple.
Love it.
But could you kind of elaborate on your network deal? Like, what does that entail, and what does the future look like with that?
Yeah, so the network that I'm under now is called the Nation Network, and they have studios and HQs in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal. Not Winnipeg yet, the place where I was born, but hopefully soon. I've been telling them we need a network in Winnipeg or a studio in Winnipeg so I can go see my mom a little bit more often. But they basically house the podcast. We have a whole sales team that takes care of advertisements and sponsorships. We have a whole producing team. So I have an audio engineer. I have other members of the team that are helping me produce the show. I have my incredible studio, which is in downtown Vancouver, Wall Center, a beautiful studio. And I have a liaison as well who kind of helps navigate the show and saying, hey, like this is where we can improve, this is what we can do better. We do show meetings, management meetings, and it's essentially really setting me up long term for some success. The show has maintained its creativity, shall we say. We recently had a recent lineup change. My co-host, Dave Wheeler, he's no longer with the show. He's an incredible man and an incredible friend. It does hurt me a little bit in the heart that he's not with me anymore with the show. But my new co-host, Rob from Butt Ends, he actually came to see me in Watertown and Motor City last year as well. He's my new co-host. So he played a couple years pro with the Toronto Marlies, Hershey Bears, Reading Royals, Manchester Monarchs. So he's been around the block. He's got lots of experience. And we do the show together now every single Sunday. It's Son of the Biscuit, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah, make sure you guys check that out. Absolutely. Taylor?
So from what I've gathered, if you keep your podcast to yourself and the Fed don't know anything about it, so to speak, or you don't stand up for any values, you're safe.
It's sad, but I think you're onto something there.
Because I noticed Asbury and you, for heaven's sake, you create a podcast and you catch the boot and essentially get blacklisted.
It's unfortunate. It really truly is. I mean, Amesbury, I don't know if he wants to talk about this, but like we're talking about an incredible family man, a father of 4, recently just had a daughter. He's moving his family all around, and he's just an incredible dude. I haven't met him personally. We haven't had an in-person conversation, but the league gets rid of him. I don't know. Maybe I should just leave it at that so I don't get myself into too much hot water, but it's just unfortunate because that's a guy that I think brings the community together in Danbury, really, truly does. And that community, that team, and the league is losing out on so much potential with him gone.
Agreed.
Same.
I think we all agree.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's another fun question in here, a little less hard hitting, not as important as pineapple on pizza, but what arena has been the most fun to play in, and why is it Binghamton?
Well, I haven't played in many arenas, I will say, but I will say, because usually I ended up backing up or in the stands doing stats. But Binghamton's arena is very nice, very, very beautiful arena. The Coast Coliseum, though, in Mississippi, there's an essence, there's a vibe, there's an energy that just can't be touched. I mean, 45,000 standing and screaming people, and a genuine 45,000, not a Motor City 45,000 or 4,500. It's energetic, it's incredible, and I wish I would have been able to play some more games in front of that crowd. Like that was awesome. I will say too, the fans of Watertown, although there's not a lot of fans coming to the games, the fans that do come love their team. And I remember the night that I got to start against Binghamton, I was warming up, and because usually I'm scratched for all the games, and a bunch of the fans coming up from the lobby saying, "Are you starting? You look like you're warming up." I'm like, "Yes, I'm starting." They're so happy, like they're just so passionate. They were screaming and yelling, and they got signs kind of like you did, Aaron, for that game when you saw
Yep.
first. So yeah, the fans in Watertown, the fans in Mississippi, you guys are awesome.
Watertown fans are the best. There's some really truly amazing people down there or up there in Watertown.
Can I give a quick shout out to Cheryl and Dwayne? I can't remember the last name. They're season ticket holders for the Wolves. But Cheryl's season ticket holder, she got my Watertown jersey, and she heard that I was looking to try to collect all my jerseys. Like I'm trying to acquire my Mississippi jersey still. I'm trying to acquire my Motor City jersey still because I like to have a collection. And one day I want to have like a man cave full of jerseys. And Cheryl heard that, and Cheryl was like, you know what? Even though she paid money out of her own pocket, her hard-earned money for it, she sent it to me out of the goodness out of her heart and said, "Here's your jersey. I'm sorry for your experience. I hope you enjoy." So to Cheryl and Dwayne, you guys are awesome, and thank you very much for giving me my jersey.
That's amazing. I love hearing stuff like that.
Like even I could do lots of stories with the fans in Watertown. There was this one girl, I'm gonna say she might have been like 12 or 13. Her and her mom were coming to the games, and her mom messaged me and said, "Hey, my daughter, she was crying this afternoon when she saw that you got traded. So she took that energy and she made something positive. She did a drawing of you, and it was like a freehand sketch of my face. And
Wow.
I went to Starbucks and I met with them, and I said, "Can I please keep that drawing? Like, is there a way that I can keep that and frame that? Because I know my mom is going to cry when she sees that." And we went to Starbucks, and they gave me the jersey, or not the jersey, the hand drawn picture, and that was really awesome. Cassidy Dugan, I believe, Casey or Cassidy Dugan. You guys made my day. You guys made my month that day. That was awesome.
This question is going to sound or come off kind of harsh sounding, sort of speaking, maybe.
Used to,
But knowing your worth is definitely important. But do you think sometimes having an agent or pushing demands can make a team feel like you are trying to present yourself as entitled, and that might actually turn them away from what you were trying to get?
Yeah, I'll answer that question with this one. So a good friend of mine, Matt Murray, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has a saying that's incredible. Those that mind don't matter, and those that don't mind do matter. So you have to advocate for yourself because nobody else is going to advocate for you as well as you can. The reality in this world is that nobody else cares about you outside of you. So if I don't believe in myself and I don't advocate for myself, nobody will. My agent won't, my team won't, my mom won't. Well, maybe my mom will because my mom's awesome, but only I will advocate in that way, right? So when I say to the management of that team that I talked to a month ago, I want to know my living situation so I know what I'm getting into. You could say, "Hey, he's entitled." The reality is, I want you to be honest with me. Am I going to sleep on a cockroach infested floor? Am I going to sleep in a trailer? Am I going to have my like? Be honest with me. Like, be a man. Don't tell me one thing and then do another. Be honest with me. Even in Watertown, like, don't. If you tell me you're going to order me custom sticks, don't tell me, "Oh, I didn't know that they take 8 weeks to order. I didn't order them. I got some other sticks coming in for you soon." Be a man about it. You say you're going to send me something out in the mail. Be a man about it, right? If you say you're going to pay me, you're going to cut me a check for such and such, do it, right? And I will say this about Joe Pace. Joe Pace is the only person in the Fed that ever promised me money and gave it to me, right? So when I left Mississippi, Joe says, "Listen, we're going to cover the expenses for you to go home and also cover your expenses coming here." And obviously, with my Fed experience, I thought, "All right, yeah, sure, Joe, I'll see that check soon." Literally might have been a day, 2 days later. "Here's the check, man. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry. This is how things have to end. Here's the check." And me thinking the way that my Fed experience has been, I'm like, is this check going to bounce? And I cashed it, and it worked. So Joe is the only person that's been honest with me about stuff like that. But it's just unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate, but I think that being authentic to myself and advocating for myself is the only way to really get anywhere. Because like I said, if you don't believe in yourself, who is going to?
Yeah, and that's definitely a fair statement.
If I could also one more thing as well, and I get a lot of flack for this online. So for example, I do believe that I'm a top 3 FPHL goaltender. I need a couple of games under my belt, get some confidence flowing, and I could absolutely fulfill that that task. Here's the thing. As far as my confidence, right? Like I do generally believe that. I would rather sit here, borderline slightly delusional about my value and my worth that I bring to a team, than be depressed and upset. And I don't know if I'm actually going to accomplish it, right? Like for me to be confident and say that I believe I'm a top 3 FPHL goaltender, I am the man. There's only net positives that are going to come out of it, right? Like I'm going to feel confident. I'm going to feel good. I go into the game in Whitfield, I'm feeling good. I go into the game against Binghamton, I'm feeling good. Confidence comes from within it. And if I don't have confidence, how do you expect me to perform? So I do think a slightly delusional sense of confidence is healthy. Now to sit here and say I'm going to go play in the East Coast this season, no, it's not going to happen. But I believe in the man. When I walk to the rink, I'm the man. When I hop into the crease, I'm the man. And if I'm starting, I'm the best goaltender in this arena, whether they like it or not. I genuinely believe that authentically. It's going to help me perform better than if I didn't. If I showed up to the game in Whitfield or the game in Binghamton and say, oh my God, I'm playing the best team in the league. Tyson Kirkby is incredible. Brendan Stanko is incredible. These guys might really have a fun time with me tonight. Nikita Ivashkin, he's going to be on the doorstep all night banging home loose change. I hope they don't score on me. That is not going to be productive under any way, shape, or form. If I come and say, I don't care who's coming against me, I'm the man, I'm better than them, and I'm going to go and execute. Puck goes in, 1 goal goes in, we're down 1-0. All right, they got lucky. That might be the luckiest shot of that guy's life. He's on the doorstep, puck went through a screen, off a shin pad at the post, wide open back door. Good for him. Fantastic for him. That's a great opportunity for me to regroup and show my versatility and to show how I battle back from some adversity. Again, that confidence, if you're not confident, what are you doing, right? It's only going to help you in a net positive way, I believe, whether people like it or not. And I think the confidence, genuine, authentic confidence is so rare nowadays. When I come on here and I talk to you about how I believe that I'm the man, I believe that I am a top 3 goaltender, I believe that I bring these things to the table, people are intimidated by that because they don't like that because they're not confident enough to believe in themselves. And they say, this guy believes in himself, but I don't believe in myself. He must be an arrogant asshole. But it only serves you in the long run if you're going to be confident, genuinely confident, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. I think being confident could be, like you said, would work out for a lot of people for a lot of reasons in a positive way. So to close out, because we're short on time, there's one more fan question that we wanted to ask. It says, you mentioned this in your podcast, but could you explain how players are reimbursed and not paid to avoid income taxes?
So the league is a non-for-profit. Essentially, the only thing making the league is the schedule online. So the league technically can't pay guys, if that makes sense. So like you can't actually make money because the league doesn't get visas. So all players come in as, I guess, visitors, shall we say. They give you money on the prepaid Visa gift card, or they give you a random check, or in some cases they give you cash because it's not actually taxable income. So that's basically the setup for the league. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So gift cards, huh?
It's a gift
That's
card.
so wild. Like, that's ridiculous.
You know what? I genuinely thought when I got traded from Watertown after my experiences, because they preload the money on the gift card. I generally thought they were going to drain the account the second I got traded. So the first thing I did when I got traded, I went to an ATM and I pulled out all the money out of the account. I pulled out like $600 or like $700, maybe $800 cash. I ended up paying like $150 in my transaction fees, but I was genuinely scared they were going to drain the account. And then when I went to Mississippi, one of the guys says, oh, the way that we have it set up, at least here, you can only deposit, you can't take it out. So you just wasted $150 on transaction fees. So it's an interesting story.
That's crazy.
I will say, for the record, even though it has been an interesting experience, fascinating to say the least, I never missed a paycheck. I've always gotten my paychecks. I've always been paid on time. Motor City, Watertown, Mississippi, always just got my money. Nobody, as far as paychecks go, everybody's been good with that.
One last question, and I think we'll wrap it up after that, I believe. What do you think? What's your thoughts on the Thompson and Smitty Tarpless fight there?
I want to try to be careful because Elias is one of my really good friends, and I never had a problem with Schmitty. Schmitty was actually really good. We had a couple of really good conversations in Watertown.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, we had some really intricate conversations just about worldviews and just how the world is changing and hockey and travel. And I know I think his girlfriend or his wife, we also had a nice conversation as well. So I got nothing but positive things to say about both. I find it fascinating the league suspended them both for one game. I think that was very interesting. I think they were trying to do something different, to put it nicely. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to compete with Diamond Hands Amesbury murdering some guy behind the net 11 seconds into his ECHL debut and pumping one of the tougher guys in the league later that night. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I was going to say, for the record, I do think a lot of people have underestimated the fact that, fighting on skates and then not having jerseys to even hold on to stabilize yourself. I think people underestimate that, that's not like an easy thing to do. But we do truly appreciate you coming on. We want to heavily stress, like, this episode with Trav was not to shit all over the Fed. He's just being honest, and that there are some things that go on behind the scenes that, sometimes should be brought to light. So I truly appreciate you coming on, and we wish you nothing but great luck in your network deal, and we look forward to see where the future takes you.
Thank you very much, guys. It's always fun coming on the podcast, and it's a pleasure. Anytime you want me on, I'm always happy to come back. And on that note, what you just mentioned, it's not a shitting on the Fed day. This is my experience. There's positives, there's negatives. Unfortunately, some things went one way, some things also went another way. And I think it ended up working out because, like I mentioned, I'm happy. I got my network deal, and things are going well. And as my father used to say, things are coming up bridging over here. So.
Awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to having you back on. You'll definitely have to keep us updated, and yeah, we'll see you soon, buddy.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to listen to the show, Sling on the Biscuit, it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and Google every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Come see our beautiful, shiny studio in downtown Vancouver, and my good-looking co-host who has the jawline of Wes Scantlin. And we'll talk about some more stuff this week. We'll talk about some stuff on the podcast this week that we didn't talk about on this show. But yeah, Sling on the Biscuit, check it out.
Yep, you guys go over and check them out, and check us out next week. We'll be back with, I believe we have Justin Schmidt as our next guest. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Social media, say hi.
Oh, I will.
Winners never quit, and quitters never win. Even if you take a few licks on the chin, just keep your head down and carry on.